My parents bought a house in the middle of nowhere. The original owner of the house died by suicide in the garage. The next man who owned the house rented the house to a friend. The friend died while living in the house. The man then sold the house to my parents. He died 2 weeks after my parents closed on the house. Before moving in, my dad befriended a couple in town, and after hearing about the house, the wife insisted on coming by and smudging the place. My dad didn't believe in any of the nonsense about the house being haunted or having bad juju, but he let her sage anyway. That didn't do any good though, because my dad died very unexpectedly a few months later in a freak accident at the house. My mom sold the house to a young couple who I'm hoping don't have horrible luck with the place. If I had the extra money laying around, I would have bought the damn thing from my mom just so I could light it on fire. When I was 17 and a foster kid living in Oakland, the family I stayed with had this old, typical San Francisco style 2-story house with wood floors. One night I went to the bathroom that was right in front of the stairs on the first floor. As I was about to walk back upstairs, I saw the bottom of a lady's long white gown at the top of the stairs. I thought it was the foster mom or sister and asked if they wanted me to leave the light on in the bathroom for them. No response. The gown just turned and went down the hallway. I thought it must have been my foster sister sleepwalking, because she was still like 10 or 11 and did that sometimes. I went upstairs and peeked in the parents' room. They were both snoring. I went back to our room where my sister was dead asleep in her bed wearing a Raiders t-shirt. I was freaked out and quickly closed our door to the hallway as I suddenly realised that there was no sound of footsteps walking on the wood floor. I hopped in bed and hid under my blanket for the rest of the night. I've been a nurse for over 20 years. I've had plenty of weird, creepy experiences, but this one still chills me. I had 2 older patients that I was taking care of, one in room 304 and one in room 305. If there wasn't a wall between the rooms, their headboards would have been butted up to each other. The gentleman in 305 was completely non-verbal. He didn't talk, he didn't respond to any stimuli. His pupils were fixed and staring. He was physically still alive but mentally not there, at all. My patient in 304 was basically there to die, but she was completely alert and oriented. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, she took a turn for the worse. She was struggling to breathe, panicking, begging for help but adamant that we don't do anything to save her from dying. I turned up her oxygen, called the doctor to get orders, then started doing what the doctor ordered to try to get her comfortable again. While I was administering meds, my nurse tech came to the bedside next to me. In an incredulous voice she said, "You have got to see room 305. I had another nurse stay with my patient in 304 and I headed to 305. I heard him before I even walked in. He was singing in a loud, shaky but beautiful tenor, singing about meeting God at the pearly gates and going home. I slowly walked into the room and said his name. No response, he kept singing. I grabbed his leg, no response, still singing. I gently shook his arm, but he still did not respond to me at all. He was just laying in bed, staring out at nothing and singing hymns about going home to heaven. I stood and listened for a few seconds, but I eventually went back to my dying patient. After about 25 or 30 minutes, she took her last breath. I set about doing all the things I needed to do after her death, but remembered my patient in 305. I went to his doorway and all I heard was silence. I peeked my head in and looked at him. He was laying there, as usual, staring out at nothing, completely silent. Once my other patient passed, he stopped singing, and I never heard him make another sound the rest of the time I cared for him. I found the whole situation kinda beautiful, but it still freaks me out.